Birushana is a visual novel otome game about the samurai in the Heikei time period. I watched a playthrough of it and loved the story and characters. As artist especially, I'm fascinated by the character designs and illustrations. Since I liked the game a lot, I decided to draw the Birushana characters. Like this, I hope I can share my interests in it with others and explore the characters more. Hey, here's May, and in today's video I'll talk about the Birushana characters. I mention how much I like them while also talking a bit about the process of drawing each one. If you know the game, I'm very happy to share this with someone with similar interests, and if you don't, I keep this as spoiler-free as possible, so I hope you can also get to know it a bit and learn about character designs along the way. Let's now start talking about the first character. First, I'll tell you who the character is. I used the Birushana wiki and a few more sources for the text here. I'm very grateful for the people who wrote the descriptions. It makes the step a lot less time consuming and I can use more of my time for drawing, which I appreciate. Now let's start with Shanao, and this is the main character whose role you take in this game. Born the youngest daughter of Yoshitomo Minamoto, Shanao was brought to the Kurama temple upon the death of her father in the Heiji rebellion. There the monks were instructed to raise her as a boy who could one day grow strong enough to overthrow the Heikei. Trained and raised by Kakunichi, Shanao excelled in matters of military strategy and in combat. Despite the expectations of those around her, Shanao has always dreamed of a quiet, peaceful life. Having been torn away from her family at a very young age, she yearns for the love of a family. Next, I'll do a tier list ranking the character designs. For Shanao here, I would say I like her outfit and hairstyle a lot. It suits her role and the bright red fits to who she is as a person character-wise. I overall tend to not like the bigger eyes for girl characters too much, but here in this case I would say they look just slightly wider open than what I normally prefer. I also don't like the lip gloss too much, but it makes sense to include this to make her stand out from the other characters. Overall, I put her into the C tier. And after ranking the design, I now rank the character based on how much I like them. I like Shanao as a main character a lot. She has some attitude, confidence, and can be funny at times as well. But I don't relate to her cluelessness when it comes to heavy feelings and her desire to be a samurai for once but also build a new family that much. I can understand it and I find it fitting for her role in the story. I will put her into the B tier here. For each of the characters, I drew them with their normal samurai outfit in the game and a more formal suit, inspired by the illustration released in 2020 by Idea Factory, the company who was also behind making the game. Some of the characters I drew also have more additional outfits, but since this wasn't the case for most of them, I just wanted to go with this. I also found it interesting since that way you can see how the characters would look in a more modern time. Next is Noritsune, nephew of Kiyomori Taira and son of Norimori Taira. Noritsune holds nothing but contempt for the soft, decadent clan the Heikei has become. Though he may not like the present aristocratic nature of his clan, he takes deep pride in his role as a samurai and is said to be one of the clan's finest warriors. Unlike Tomomori, Noritsune does not see the gathering storm on the horizon for the Heikei. Being the same age as Shanao, he feels a deep sense of competition with her. For Noritsune, I really like his hair and eye color. The pink and green look amazing. I also love the pink of his shirt, but I find the red parts of his outfit don't fit to this that well. They do give the design more contrast though. Overall, I put him into the B tier. I don't like how obsessed with fighting and strength Noritsune is, but I do like his ambition, and him wanting to beat Shanao in a fight throughout most of his route makes for a very interesting, enjoyable dynamic between him and the main character. He's also pretty smart and I like that he doesn't give up easily. Overall, I like Noritsune and I'd put him into the A tier here. For each of the characters, you'll see that I first didn't draw in any hands, I only added them in the end. I've drawn characters for a few other fandoms similarly to these ones here before, and with each time I do this, I like to test out something new, in case this makes my workflow feel nicer and more efficient. I have a file where I keep many hand studies and poses I drew, and here I added in the hands from this in the end. I first picked out all hand poses I would want to include while looking at the characters I had already drawn and paying attention to what would work nicely with their personality and pose, and I found this enabled me to really only focus on the hands for this step, which I enjoyed. Overall, I just recommend being mindful when you're trying hand poses, not just drawing variations, but rather thinking about what would suit the illustration before you draw the hands. For the hand poses I chose, for more outgoing characters, I generally go with more expressive ones, while for more calm characters, the fingers won't be as stretched out and more gentle off. Next is Benkei. Previously a monk at Mount Hiei, Benkei was expelled from that temple after an incident with the Heikei. Since then, he has been stealing the thoughts of Heikei officials in response. After being defeated by Shanao, he pledged to become Shanao's vassal. Kind, gentle, and good-natured, Benkei and Shanao both share a history of growing up in temples and a dissatisfaction with the brutal rule of the Heikei. Benkei is a pretty tall white guy, and this is not what I prefer visually. I like the big white sleeves and scarf he has outfit-wise. Overall, I put him into the C tier for the design. Character-wise, Benkei is really wholesome and a rather simple guy. He reminds me a bit of a loyal guard dog, and in his route I like that him and Shanao form a really trustful bond and relationship. He can be a bit naive and not too smart at times, but I like his wholesomeness. I'd put him into the B tier. As mentioned, for the references I used, I got some official artworks on my mood board. On these artworks you can see many patterns are added on different outfit parts of the characters, and this makes a big difference to me. It makes the otherwise pretty plain big sleeves, for example, look a lot more interesting. Due to this, I also edited some patterns using my references. I created the patterns by drawing one symbol or part of the big pattern and then duplicating it and arranging it so it would create the pattern. What I find interesting about these patterns at different anime fandoms is that they sometimes will follow and be affected by the folds of the outfit parts. In other cases, they will just be overall straight. For the Birushana ones, it would most of the time just be straight patterns, which also makes sense when you look at how detailed they are. Transforming them a lot would be very time consuming, and that's why I also use the approach of not transforming them when adding the patterns myself. Next is Shungen. Born a child of Shigenari Minamoto, a vassal of Shanao's father, Yoshitomo Minamoto, Shungen was brought to Kurama Temple upon the death of his father at the same time as Shanao. Because the two have been together since they were very young, Shungen is aware that Shanao is a woman. Like Shanao, Shungen was raised at Kurama Temple by Kakunichi. While not as skilled with a sword as Shanao, Shungen is extremely bright and well-read. Despite his small stature and kind appearances, Shungen is extremely brave and protective of Shanao. I like Shungen's design a lot. His bright color scheme and soft-looking facial features are really pretty to me. He also has pretty eyes. Overall, I put him into the S tier here. Shungen has a determined, calm personality and is pretty smart. He can be a bit attached to Shanao since he's her childhood friend and stubborn at times. I like how much he respects Shanao and that he is a really kind person. I'm putting him into the S tier here. I used a layer structure where I had two folders for each version of the character, the samurai and the modern one, so I could easily change between them. I only drew the faces and bodies once since I could just flip them for the other version by adding two hair and outfit versions. Something I changed over time here would be that I didn't flip the face and pose for the second version for the characters I drew later on, since it didn't matter whether I would flip them during the drawing process or at the end. Since I could always mirror my canvas, I found this made the process a bit faster. It can be a bit confusing though, so it's good to double check, for example, that you really are drawing the hair so it's parted the other way around for the second version, for example. Next is Yoritomo. Born the youngest son of Yoshitomo Minamoto, Yoritomo's father and older brothers were all killed by the Heikei in the Heiji Rebellion. Just 14 at the time, Yoritomo's life was spared from execution by Kiyomori Taira's stepmother, Lady Ikonozeni. Instead, Yoritomo was forced to live the hard life of an exile in the land of Izu. After many lonely years, Yoritomo's heart became cold and isolated. Now he lives with only a single mission, a mission for which he will risk his life to restore the Genji clan with himself as its leader. I like Yoritomo's design a lot. His long hair and calm, determined face look pretty to me. For his outfit, I like it. Overall, I don't like red and warm colors that much, so I like it a bit less than Shungen's, but still, he looks nice. I put him into the A tier here. Personality-wise, Yoritomo is very calm, and especially at first, he comes off as really cold and unemotional. He's mysterious and smart, which I like. He's very focused on becoming the Genji's leader, which I don't understand that much, but that makes sense for him. I put him into the A tier. The most difficult parts to draw to me for this project would be the face. I discovered this especially during the critique stage as well, where I'd often just write down things about the face that looked off to me. I did this critique step right before adding the hands, after I had shaded the basic characters. Then during the final stage I would add the hands, adjust the characters, and finally then also add in flower patterns, what I'll talk more about after I tell you a bit about the next character. And the last love interest in the regular game I'll talk about will be Tomomori, fourth son of Kiyomori Tomomori Taira and graceful in both words and appearances. From the outside, he would appear to have little use for war. However, he has time and time again demonstrated himself to be a fierce warrior, a superb general, and a trusted advisor to Kiyomori. Though the Heike appear to be at the height of their power, Tomomori senses a change in the wind and knows that all things in this world are one day bound to perish. Tomomori has a really pretty face and hairstyle. For his outfit, I like the blue colors of it. I like it almost as much as Shungen's design. I put him into the S tier. Character-wise, Tomomori is a very mysterious and kind of mischievous character. He always seems like he's plotting something and knows what will happen next. On one side, he can be very careless about his and the world's future, or he can be very obsessed, mostly with Shanao. He's a obsessive, passionate person, but only when he really cares deeply about something. He finds any interesting experiences intriguing, while he can be pretty intense and weird at times. At the same time, I like how smart he is and how determined he can be. I put him into the A tier. Adding the patterns like I did here already made the illustrations a bit more interesting. However, for these illustrations, for the past ones I've done, I would also add in small elements that are related to the character and show who they are by, for example, including some coffee for a character that loves coffee, or a Switch for a character who loves to play games on his Switch. For the Birushana characters, I didn't have detailed ideas about their hobbies or interests like for the other ones. The Birushana game focuses more on the war and the story and the relationship dynamics between the characters after all. Due to this, I decided to add in flowers, a recurring element for the Birushana game. It even is included in the title Birushana Senki Rising Flower of Genpei. So here I browsed through Pinterest and looked at flowers that would fit to the characters. Then I added in these flowers as elements around the character for both versions. Next we move on to the side characters, and for some of them you also get a route in the fan disc of the Birushana game, which is called Birushana Senki Ichiju no Kaze. And now let's talk about Shigehira, Tomomori's brother. Fifth child of Kiyomori Taira and brother of Tomomori. Despite his regal appearances and renowned abilities in yards, Shigehira has a sinister side as well, particularly on the battlefield. Concerned less with victory and more with the blood he spills, Shigehira has a reputation for taking delight in carnage. Not much concerned with the future, Shigehira instead sets his sight on enjoying the present as much as possible. Despite his savage reputation, his love and respect for his brother Tomomori is well known. Similarly to Tomomori, to me Shigehira's face and hairstyle are really pretty. Not as pretty as Tomomori, but still I like these parts in his design a lot. As for his outfit, he wears mostly red and warm colors, which fits to him, but it's not my favorite. I put him into the A tier here. Shigehira is very obsessive, similar to Tomomori, but differently from him, he doesn't have the careless side to him, and unlike him, he also pretty much always speaks his mind. He's very straightforward, overly confident, moody, and enthusiastic. He can be a very fun but also exhausting person to be around. I like Shigehira and I put him into the B tier here. Differently from the color palettes I usually go for, which tend to be more purpley. For the illustrations here I used more warm reddish tones since this fit with the aesthetic of the Birushana game more. I still used a bit more purpley colors overall, especially for shading though, but overall I would say the colors in the character illustrations here look warmer than for my other ones. Let me know what kind of colors you like visually, whether it's for the Birushana characters or just in general. Next is Takatsuna, son of Hideyoshi Sasaki, who once served under Yoritomo and Shanao's father. Takatsuna was ordered to follow in his father's footsteps and serve as a vassal to Lord Yoritomo. Despite his young age, he has shown a strong ability to serve the Genji on and off the battlefield. His bright and innocent smile is known to bring joy to all those who see it. Hairstyle and face-wise, Takatsuna is pretty cute. I like his fluffy hair. The orange and green color combination isn't something I like too much. You can probably tell when you look at my mostly purpley and blue art. I do like the cut of the different parts of his outfit though. Overall, I put Takatsuna into the B tier. Takatsuna is a very friendly, energetic character. He's optimistic, motivated and easy to talk to. He's rather simple, straightforward, and I like his personality. I put him into the A tier overall. For the poses here, this actually went pretty smoothly. For drawing these characters, one evening I felt really motivated and inspired to just draw all the pose thumbnails. Probably also because I was rewatching a Birushana walkthrough by Spacey Sims on YouTube, from who I've also watched many other Otome gameplays and I'm very grateful for the videos there. I was rewatching this Birushana walkthrough right before and while starting to work on this project. In the poses I came up with, I wanted to include some variety for the head and body angles, while often using opposing head and shoulder guidelines to make the poses more interesting. Next we have a non-dateable side character, which would be Shanao's cousin Yoshinaka. Shanao and Lord Yoritomo's cousin and leader of the Shinano Genji. Because he was raised in Kiso after his father's death, he is sometimes called the young man of Kiso. What he lacks in wisdom and class, he more than makes up for in fighting skill and stamina. Despite his crass nature, he is skilled at bringing men to fight by his side. I don't like hairstyles that don't include bangs like Yoshinaka's here as much. Other than this, he does have a pretty face though. His outfit is pretty revealing and I don't like the many colors included in it that much. It does fit to him as a person though. I would put him into the B tier. Yoshinaka reminds me a bit of Shikihira since he is also very outgoing and expressive. He's confident, rather aggressive and very prideful as well. I find he's pretty intense and rather simple-minded. I would put him into the B tier overall. Next I talk a bit about my learnings throughout this project. For the patterns it would have made sense to look at all of the ones I would need at the start. I drew maybe 2 twice, which isn't a lot of time wasted, but when drawing the characters I wasn't even sure if I would include these from the start on, so just looking at stylistic elements like the patterns added here or for Hypnosis Mic, it for example was added white silhouette highlights. You're looking at these elements before drawing the characters to decide if I want to include something similar makes sense to me. Other than this, adding the elements is also something I think I could have thought more about before starting to draw the characters. For the other fandoms I drew characters for before, I would add elements based on their hobbies and interests. For the Birushana characters, this didn't work that well to me, and with the flowers I'm not sure if how I chose to do this was nice. You can also let me know your thoughts about the flowers I added or ideas for other things to add for character illustrations like these. For the hands, I learned that I liked adding them afterwards. While the hand poses may not seem as natural as when you add them as you draw the pose, I found that it saved some time to me and I enjoyed only focusing on adding them in the end. For the patterns themselves, I think it should also be possible to either use something like After Effects to create the patterns quickly from just one image or to create custom brushes instead of copying and pasting the elements multiple times like I did here. Next we have another non-dateable character, which is Yasuhira, son of Fujiwara Hidehira, head of the Oshu Fujiwara clan. He considers the life of his father Hidehira, the head of the Fujiwara clan, to be absolute. However, in contrast to his father, who welcomes him to Hirozumi, he casts a cold eye on Shanao, whom he regards as a nuisance. His honest nature makes him a difficult person to deal with. Yasuhira's face and hairstyle are pretty. I wouldn't say I like them as much as for Tomomori or Shungen, but still he is good looking to me. Yasuhira has a lot of purple in his outfit, which I like. Overall, I put him into the A tier. You don't get to see as much of Yasuhira's personality in the story since he isn't one of the love interests or main side characters, which gets a route in the fan disc. Because of this, I don't have an as big expression and opinion on him as for most of the other characters, but overall, from how I perceived him, he's rather cold, strict, a bit moody and skeptical. I like this a lot. I would also say he'd make for an interesting love interest. I would put him into the A tier here. Next, let's talk about the story of the Birushana game. I let you know a bit more about what happens while still keeping this as spoiler-free as possible, but if you would like to know nothing about what the story is about, I would skip to this timestamp. Here I'm going to first read you the story description from the wiki and then I'll share my own opinion on it. 15 years after the Heiji rebellion, the Heikei clan has reached the height of its power, while the Genji clan remains devastated by defeat. Hidden deep within the mountains of Kurama lives Shanao, the youngest surviving male heir to the Genji name. However, Shanao harbors a deep secret known by very few. The youngest heir to the Genji name is no man. Torn between her duty to live up to the Genji family name and her desire to live a peaceful life, Shanao sets off in hopes to take down the Heikei stronghold and finally bring peace to the country. Her adventure leads her to find new cherished relationships as well as something deeper than the feud between the rivaling clans. That's it for the story summary, and while I myself don't usually am too interested in war stories or action heavy movies or shows, I found the story enjoyable, suspenseful and interesting. There were some things you didn't expect in there and I liked how things got gradually revealed when playing through the different characters' routes. It's not my favorite type of story, but I enjoyed seeing something a bit different from most other things I watch, which tend to be more on the slice of life, idle anime, happy vibe side. Next we have another side character who gets a route in the fan disc, which is Tsugunobu. Tsugunobu is a highly regarded samurai in service of the Fujiwara clan of Oshu. Upon orders from Lord Hidehira Fujiwara, Tsugunobu joins Shanao on her journey and vows to serve with his life. His loyalty to Shanao comes not only from his vow to serve her, but also from his personal attachment to Shanao. Soft-spoken and wise, he also has a dark side, especially when it comes to his younger brother. Tsukunobu is another one of those characters with a pretty face and hair. I find he appears very calm and elegant through these features, which fits to him. His outfit adds to this as well. I don't like the dark blue and the colors in his outfit as much as for Yasuhira, Tomomori and Shungen, Yoritomo, but overall his design is pretty and I'd put him into the A tier. Tsukunobu is very polite and honest. He can also be pretty funny when he makes these kind of savage jokes and comments, mostly regarding his brother. He's the older brother of the character I'll talk about next, and he acts rather responsible in his relationship with him, but also likes to tease him from time to time. He's smart, ambitious, and he has a way with words. I like Tsukunobu a lot and I'm putting him into the S tier here. After having talked about the story, next I'll tell you a bit more about the different character routes and my opinions on them. Again, I'm keeping this as spoiler-free as possible, but if you don't want to hear anything about this, feel free to skip until this timestamp. First, let's start with Noritsune's route, in which him and Shanao have a bit of a enemies to lovers relationship. It's one of the best routes I've ever seen, and both Noritsune and Shanao just are very dedicated, which makes them connect. For a long time, they actually just want to fight each other and don't realize that they are developing feelings for each other, and all of this is very enjoyable to see. Next we move on to Benkei. Here we have kind of a servant to master relationship, and this whole route is very based on trust and respect. I really like this and find the dynamic here really nice and wholesome. Benkei just isn't a character that I myself find very attractive, but other than this, his route was great. Now for Shungen, Shanao's childhood friend, and as you may probably guess, him and Shanao know each other really well. This relationship again is very wholesome and based on trust. We also have a bit of jealousy in there. I enjoyed this and Shungen's gentle way a lot. Yoritomo would be next. He's a very silent character who only starts to open up and show his feelings after a while. I liked seeing how deeply caring he is in the end, and found in the beginning he was pretty cold but also mysterious. Throughout the route he also overcame some of his past trauma, which makes you really empathize with him. It was an interesting route to me. Finally we have Tomomori. This is a pretty unique route since he starts with being obsessed with Shanao and wanting to see her cry, while ending with still being pretty obsessed but wanting to see her smile. He and Shanao learn a lot about Tomomori as a person and how he got to be the person he is. In Tomomori's route you also have some trauma to go through in his past and help him with overcoming it. It was a pretty suspenseful, emotional and interesting route, definitely, design-wise. Next is Tadanobu, Tsukunobu's younger brother and fellow vassal of First Lord Yehira Fujiwara and later Shanao. Brave to a fault, his presence on the battlefield always leaves his enemies defeated and his allies inspired. Though not the sharpest tool in the shed, Tadanobu has a bright, charming personality, one that occasionally leads him to speak too plainly to Lord Shanao. Tadanobu has a cute face and hairstyle to me. Hairbands aren't something I have a strong opinion on. I find here for Tadanobu it makes his design more unique, I like it. As for his outfit, he has the warmer color scheme between both the brothers, fitting to his warm personality. His outfit also is a bit more revealing, similarly to Yoshinaka, which also fits to him being more outgoing. I don't like the brown tones too much, but I find his design suits him. I'd put him into the A tier here. Tadanobu is optimistic, funny, straightforward and outgoing. He usually speaks his mind without thinking much about it, making him very honest. He's also pretty upbeat and can be ambitious as well. I find he would kinda be the happy sunshine while Tadanobu is the elegant moon for both the siblings. Actually, from my OCs, Yomari would remind me of Tsukunobu, while Tadanobu would remind me of Kuru, which is nice since they are the moon and the sun guardian. I also have an OC named Kira, the star guardian, and he would remind me of Shungen, I think. I'm putting Tadanobu into the B tier here. Here I talk a bit about my references. For references, I first made a mood board where I gathered a lot of images from the page zerochan.net. The site has official illustrations as well as fan art of many fandoms, especially for less widely known ones. For Genshin Impact, I for example would just use the fandom site where the card illustrations are, as well as the site Games Fashion Archive for 3D models of the characters, but for Birushana here, the Zero-chan site has the official sprites as well as CGs and so on, which was all I needed as references. And that would be it for talking about the Birushana characters and how it was to draw them. Let me know your favorite character or who sounds interesting or which parts of this video were most interesting to you. Feel free to leave any Birushana art related feedback or other thoughts you have in the comments. I appreciate any feedback. I'm very grateful for knowing Birushana and its characters. I like the fandom a lot. You can also find the illustrations I did for this video as well as for a few other fandoms such as Ensemble Stars, Hypnosis Mike or Café Enchanté on my Etsy store. Thank you for watching the video, have a nice day and bye.